You have it on?
Oh, no.
Just mute it though.
Yeah.
Oh, it's giving us a second here to. I've hit the go live button and it's not going live yet.
Oh, no, it is. Yeah.
Oh, you went live before I went live. Really? All right, well, let's begin. We have 2 viewers, I guess, already. So once this thing kicks off. So we are live, according to Miss Hillary Holden here, who's actually in the having trouble. So are we good? We're good? She's my check. All right, good. Okay, so welcome to a very special Veterans, virtual Veterans Day Assembly here at Minooka Community High School. First of all, I'd like to say happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans who are out there watching today and who are with us today on this panel. Thank you for your service and thank you for everything that you've done for us. We really appreciate it. So I'm your host, Brent Edwards, for today's assembly. And of course, we have students and veterans and Dr. Brian Zwimke, who is our building principal. So I'm going to go around and introduce our students now. We have Abigail Cimaroli, we have Slater, Sabira Hassan, and Hetsamani Sanchez. How'd I do? Do okay with the students?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And we also have our veterans will be joining us today. We have Rob Munson, who's a sergeant in the Air Force.
Hi.
We have Thomas Johannesson. He was a sergeant in the Army. And Ron Singrani, he's a 3rd class petty officer in the Navy. So thank you again for joining us today. So let's get right after it here. We're going to start off our assembly with the Pledge of Allegiance with Abigail Cimaroli.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Abigail. I'd like to turn it over right now with a special Veterans Day message read by Dr. Zwimke.
Well, good afternoon to everybody, and certainly I appreciate you joining us on Facebook, and to our veterans, happy Veterans Day. I'm going to read a Veterans Day message. Today there is, and perhaps there always will be, conflict in the world. But the United States, fortunately, enjoys peace and freedom. Like other things of great value, this security did not come cheaply. Part of the cost has already been paid by Americans who answered the call to military duty when their country needed them, earning them the special distinction of veteran. But another part of the freedom's cost must continue to be paid long after the guns have been silenced. This debt is owed to Americans' veterans. Some need their country's help, even as their country once needed theirs, to readjust, to recover, or to overcome hardships of age and infirmity. Most ask nothing in repayment of their sacrifices. Let us continue to help those veterans in need with the greatest possible compassion and efficiency. To the rest, since they ask no special help, we can best pay tribute this day by recognizing what they have achieved and joining them in their resolve to keep America strong and free. Minooka Community High School wishes all of our veterans and active military a happy Veterans Day.
Thank you, Dr. Zwimke. Thank you. So the next part of our assembly ceremony for Veterans Day will be a live Q&A with our students asking questions for our veterans or to our veterans. So first off, I'd like to start with Slater. You have a question. Go ahead. Oh, Slater, you're on mute. There you go.
Sorry. What motivated you, or how did you join the military?
Mr. Munson, would you like to start?
Absolutely. I joined the military back in 1988, and the reason I did so was because I needed to go a different direction with my life. I started out at a junior college to play baseball right after high school, and my mind just wasn't there. My GPA suffered. I wasn't doing real well, And I always knew I wanted to be a police officer. And obviously, I wasn't old enough yet. I was only 19. So I decided that I would become a police officer in the Air Force. And that's how I got started.
Mr. Johannesson, how about you?
Well, I had watched everything unfold after 9/11. I was 25 when it happened. And shortly into the next year, I wanted to do something to help. I was kind of in a rut in my own life. I was bouncing from job to job. So I took the aptitude test for the military and talked to a recruiter. And I got a position as a military intelligence analyst. And I thought maybe I could do something to help. So I signed up. They gave me an opportunity to go in a little bit earlier if I volunteered to go airborne. And so I did.
How about you, Mr. Singrani?
Well, back in 1964, I was a 17-year-old snotty-nosed kid, and I didn't know which direction to go, and the draft was out. So I decided I'd pick my own career, my own branch of the service, which I did, and I'm glad I did. I chose the U.S. Navy because I wanted to travel.
Very good, very good. Abigail, the next question will go to you. And I think you might be on mute as well. There you go, thank you.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about your time in boot camp?
Mr. Munson, let's start with you again.
Sure. I spent my boot camp in San Antonio, Texas, in the very hottest part of the year. I think every day I could remember was at least 95, 100 degrees. And I don't know about you other guys, but it seemed like that's all we did was eat, breathe, and drink, physical conditioning, running, going from point A to point B, and constantly getting yelled at by our drill sergeants, which it seems like yesterday that was happening. Obviously, when we first got into boot camp, we didn't really understand why they were constantly yelling at us. But by the time we graduated, there was a purpose to it, and it helped me to get where I am today. So I greatly appreciated all that training that I received.
Mr. Singrani, you're up.
There's a lot of physical training. We were on the grinder every day, 4 to 5 hours, and they were just getting everybody regimented and orientated on what we were going to do. And there was quite a bit of schooling involved in there.
Mr. Johannesson, you're up.
Yeah, so I was 26 going through basic training, and I think that might have made me a little smarter, but not much. So I did as much as possible to not be targeted by the drill sergeants while I was there. One of the few times in my life I did not want to get noticed. But same thing, with a lot of exercise, and for me, I was a scrawny 26-year-old, so they wanted to put some meat on my bones, and sometimes that got me a little extra attention.
Thank you for that. Sabira, you're up with your question.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for your service and happy Veterans Day. My question is, what was your primary job after training?
Let's go with Mr. Singrani today for this one.
Okay, well, after boot camp, I was stationed at Beeville, Texas, right near Corpus Christi. I was at a Naval Air Station. I was in charge of planes there. I was a plane captain. We did trainer pilots there. I had my own airplane. There was a 3-man crew. We took care of them, fueled them, made sure they were in proper running condition, and we got to know the pilots real good. We trained them to go overseas.
Okay. Next up, how about Mr. Johannesson?
So my initial job was it was kind of a long title. It was a non-communications electronic intercept analyst. That job went away, and they absorbed us into another job specialty. So I became a signals intelligence analyst. So basically, we collected and analyzed signals.
Okay. Next up, Mr. Munson.
My primary job was a law enforcement specialist. I basically had the same duties as a police officer that you see in your neighboring communities. We handled service calls, traffic enforcement, and those types of duties during my time.
Nice. Wow. Very nice. Okay, so the next question will be for Hetsamani. You're up.
Where did you serve the majority of time in the service?
Okay, let's start with Mr. Johannesson.
So I was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, with the 82nd Airborne Division, originally with the 313th MI Battalion, and then through Army reorganization, that battalion went away. I finished my time with the headquarters company for the 82nd Airborne Division. While I was with the MI Battalion, we did one short tour in Iraq. In fact, my oldest son, TJ, that's a Manuka school student, was actually born when I was down there in North Carolina.
Nice. Mr. Singrani.
Well, I was a year at the Naval Air Station in Beeville, Texas. Then I was deployed aboard ship on the USS Enterprise, and they sent us overseas to the Gulf of Tonkin for Vietnam War. We were there approximately 11 months, and my job on there, I loaded bombs and missiles 18 hours a day. They flew combat missions. They flew while we were there in the 11 months we were there. So we were pretty busy. We were flying 18 hours a day right in the Gulf of Tonkin for support for the troops.
My goodness. Mr. Munson, your turn.
My primary station was Scott Air Force Base, which is about 25 miles east of St. Louis. I was also a member of the 44-man flight that was deployed to Desert Shield and Desert Storm. I was there for approximately 3.5 months. While I was there, we were about 90 miles south of the Iraqi border, and all the missions that were flown over Baghdad during that time originated from where I was stationed.
Wow. Jumping in here real quick, as this is going on and I'm hearing you guys talk about your stories and answering these questions, it's just amazing because, you see it on the movies and everything like that, but you guys are living it and breathing it and talking about it. Wow. Thank you again. That's amazing. Also, for those that are watching right now live, go ahead and fill out some questions there. Shoot us a question. Maybe we can answer it live on the session here. But let's continue on, and we're going to move to Slater again. Slater, you have another question.
Yeah. What type of leader did you become when you left the military, and how did that play a role in your career?
Let's start with Mr. Singrani.
Well, I learned leadership and organization. That helped me in my career. I went to work for Commonwealth Edison. I had a 30-year career there.
Okay. Let's go to Mr. Johannesson. Oh, Mr. Johannesson, your turn. Okay, let's just switch over to Mr. Munson real quick. We'll come back to you, Mr. Johannesson.
So I had this question because outside of the military, I never really viewed myself as a leader. I was talking with my son TJ last night, and he says, "What are you talking about, Dad? You lead by example at work with us, with the kids." But I think the time in the military kind of prepped me as a leader in the sense that it's become part of my job. I don't realize that I'm leading projects at work more because a lot of what we do here is a little bit more collaborative, but taking charge and taking over on things when it's required, it almost becomes second nature.
Mr. Munson?
When I left the Air Force, I was unemployed for a whopping 21 days. I had tested for the Lisle Police Department, and I consider that to be one of the greatest police departments, not only in the state, but in the country. And all of the men and women that I served with did an outstanding job. While I was there in my 27-year career, I was very goal and task-oriented as a leader. I left as the deputy chief of the police department in charge of operations. Transformational leadership is always and always will be important to me. It gives employees and fellow coworkers an opportunity to engage in tasks and goals that are both of interest not only to them, but the organization's success. And that really helped me throughout my career.
Okay. Next question will be from Abigail.
Tell me about some of the special people that you met.
Let's go right back to Mr. Munson.
Sure. I can't speak for the other guys, but you never forget the individuals that you met in the military. Some of them and a lot of them I'm still in contact with through social media, especially Facebook. Back in 2016, we actually had a 25-year reunion with the guys that I deployed with Saudi Arabia. And even though I lost contact with a lot of them throughout that 25 years, as soon as we got back to that reunion, we didn't skip a beat. It was great to see everyone see what they chose as a profession, talk about their families' experiences throughout their life. And that's something that you'll never forget.
Mr. Johannesson.
Yeah, this one was this is fun. So I was a paratrooper, and so we jumped out of planes. Everybody in our division was special. The guys there, we literally had somebody from every state, every walk of life. In my travels, I got to meet soldiers from Azerbaijan, Moldova, New Zealand, the UK, Australia. I worked with soldiers directly that went on to be Green Berets. One of the sergeants I worked for is now a Command Sergeant Major. One of the soldiers I work with went on to be an officer. There's several civilian contractors. But one of the most unique experiences I think I got was I was acting as an armed guard for an Iraqi contractor, and he brought his brother-in-law along. He was an Iraqi professor that was acting as a translator, and he asked if there was anything I wanted to know about Iraqi culture. And I kept hearing this name Ali Baba going around, and I didn't know the story. So I asked this man to tell me the story of Ali Baba, and he got very, very excited. Apparently, it was a bedtime story that parents told their kids there. And so I got to get the direct translation of Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves from my Iraqi. So it was a pretty special time.
You'll have to share that story with us some other time, right? Mr. Singarani.
Well, they were all special people to me. They were like brothers. We were closer to them than our brothers because you were with them guys 24 hours a day. We were out to sea between 40 and 60 days in a row, and you're flying 18 hours a day. So everybody's watching each other's back. That ship I was on was the world's largest aircraft carrier, which was a floating city in itself. There were 6,500 guys on that ship. And if you were to take that ship out of the water and stand it on end, it's as tall as the Empire State Building. That's how big a ship that is. Westinghouse built that. It was all nuclear powered, 8 nuclear reactors. It could go 2 years without fuel. It was 4.5 acres long. So figure that's 11 football fields. It was a big ship, floating city, and there was people on there you never even seen because it was nuclear powered. There was areas you couldn't even go into, but I was on the flight deck. That was my job, and that was a hazardous duty up there. So everybody had to watch each other up there because of all the stuff that was going on. So they were all special to me.
Wow, it's crazy. Sabira, your question.
How did your military experience affect your life today?
Let's go with Mr. Munson.
It forced me to mature very quickly. I was put in situations that I had never been accustomed to, and it was time for me to grow up, which I really needed. I gained an understanding of how important the military is, not only for myself, but for this great country that we live in. I finished my education after I left, and I was very happy for that. I wasn't worried about academic probation anymore. I was actually successful, and I graduated from DePaul University with a great GPA. Not as high as my kids, of course, but that's okay too. It definitely helped me in my career. It made me understand a lot more than I did prior to going in. When you're with individuals that you treat like family and brothers, it really creates a great atmosphere for you to work in and continue success.
Mr. Singrani.
Well, it taught me respect other people, it taught me responsibility. That was just a couple of the things. And it made me a better person. It made me more responsible. and to respect other people, like you say.
Mr. Johannesson.
So I two things. My very first parachute jump, I was not very good at jumping out of planes, and my fault. I had a weak exit, and I had a partial parachute malfunction. So you're falling to the ground, and you got to fix it, and you got to kind of trust your training. In fact, I didn't even think about it, and I fixed it. So all that to say, when I walk into the kitchen now and the toaster is on fire, it's not a big event in my life. It's just kind of one of those things that you deal with and you move on. There are worse things in the world. A lot of the drama of life is not that big of a deal. So it really helped kind of keep things in perspective. And the other thing that I learned is to not let obstacles become barriers. There's things that are going to cross your path in life, and sometimes you just got to take another look at it or another try and find another way to your goal.
Well said. Well said. Okay, so our final question will come from Hetsamani. Go ahead. You're up.
Is there anything else you guys would like to share?
Mr. Munson.
Yes, I'd like to say thank you to all the veterans that served before me, the veterans that are serving now, and the future veterans. Without all of you doing your part, I wouldn't be allowed to live in the country that I live in. So for that, I'm greatly appreciative.
Anything from you, Mr. Johannesson?
Well, I'd like to echo what Mr. Munson said, and I'd also like to say that all the team building that we learned in the Army, one of the hardest things, the hardest lesson to learn is to ask for help. Some things in life you just can't do by yourself. So when you're having problems, ask for help.
Mr. Singarani.
Well, I just like to thank the veterans that are back here. Approximately there's 700,000 of us still here, but 58,000 of us didn't make it. So that's a lot of lives lost. And I wish they were here with us. There were a lot of young kids over there. I went there with 5 people and 2 of us came back. We were 17-year-old kids. So a lot of people didn't make it back. Like I say, 58,000 people died over there. So that's just something to keep in mind. That's why we're trying to keep the country going the way it is now. We want to get it better.
Mr. Swimke, I'll throw the last bit of questions to you. Dr. Swimke, I apologize.
So there's some comments along the side, gentlemen, and I'll just kind of toss them up to whoever would like to jump in. The comments are saying that, thank you so much for doing this, and many people will watch it later. One of the questions that comes in is, what does Veterans Day mean to you? So if any of the 3 veterans want to take that question, what does the day mean to you?
Well, to me, I mean, there's a lot of people that aren't here. I went and got an oil change this morning in Morris. The guy does that every year. He gives veterans a free oil change, and there was 11 of us veterans there. One of them was a Purple Heart twice, missing an arm. There was another guy there without a leg. Those guys been like that for the last 25 years, so they've had a long life.
It's time that I look back and reflect on the relationships and what I was able to do in my years of service. And I look forward to the opportunity being a staff member here at MCHS when students approach me and ask me about my experience in the military and if that would be a good decision for them to seek in the future. And I'm always up for those conversations. I truly appreciate the interest that I see from the students and hope that someday they can experience the same things that I did during my career.
Mr. Johannesson.
Yeah, I remember the very first Veterans Day assembly I took my dad to. He's a Vietnam veteran. And we were standing there, and he looked at a couple other Vietnam vets, and he said, this is the first time anybody's ever recognized us for what we've done. The disrespect that was done during the Vietnam era and the veterans that came home is really shameful. And how the schools treat veterans now is fantastic. And I just hats off to anybody that's ever served or serves in the future. It's really a life-changing experience.
Thank you for that. One of the questions along the side is just so maybe people can kind of conceptualize how long you served for while you were in the Army, the Navy, or the Air Force. Sabrina's question is, for how long did you serve?
I was in myself a little over 3 years.
3 years. Okay. How about you, Tom?
Same.
I was in 4 years.
4 years. I'm sorry, Mr. Munson, you.
Yeah, I was just over 3 years. I had signed a 4-year commitment, asked for an early out to complete my education, and it was granted.
Excellent. Excellent. Slater and Abigail and everybody else, do you guys have any other questions that have popped into your mind as we finish up here today?
Nope. Okay, so moving on real quick. The next part of our virtual assembly today, we're going to move into the highlighting the Interact Club and the Operation Gratitude portion of what they do. Each year, the Interact Club and sponsor Nicole Bolick leads MCHS in writing letters and making cards for Veterans Day. Last year, our school collectively wrote over 1,300 letters and were mailed out to veterans, deployed troops, wounded warriors, first responders, and more. Although the pandemic has posed challenges for everyone across the globe, COVID-19 did not stop MCHS from showing our gratitude toward those who have been so courageous in serving our nation. A big thank you to Mr. Garcia, Mrs. Cornell, Mrs. Ketchum, and all their classes. You were rock stars this year. We have 3 letters that were chosen that will be read today and shared with you. So it will be read by Slater, Sabira, and Hetsamani. So Slater, you're up if you'd like to read your letter.
This letter comes from an MCHS student, and it says, "Dear veteran, your journey of defending our great nation is just one in a million reasons I'm writing to you. Your courage, dependability, and trustworthiness and spirit spark bravery in me. I deeply appreciate your service, but more than that, I appreciate you. Thank you for all you have done to ensure that I can accomplish my daily tasks without any fear that something may stand in the way of my safety. Please never forget that you are appreciated and loved. Thank you."
Nice job. Nice job. Sabira, you're up next.
To those who fight for us, there is no way to express true gratitude for our veterans and troops who have worked days and nights, many putting their lives on the line for the sake of everyone's freedom, privileges, and safety. It's a true honor to call myself American, knowing the true heroes I stand behind. Forever will I always stand with the military, knowing what it is that they give up to defend this country and the people in it. God bless to all those who have fallen, to those who served, and God bless America. Happy Veterans Day.
The final letter will be read by Hetsamani.
Dear veteran, today is a day especially where we respect the people who fought for our country. I cannot express how much I appreciate you all as a person. The sacrifices you made can never be repaid. Your service for our country will never be forgotten. Thank you for ensuring the freedoms I enjoy every day. As a person, you should always be honored for the work you do and have done. You set multiple examples for young people today in our country. I cannot thank you enough for your service. I am forever grateful for the service that you provide. Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you so much for reading those letters. Nice job. And thank you for the Interact Club and the Operation Gratitude for doing that project every year. It's such a great testament to the veterans. And speaking of veterans, at this moment, we'd like to take a moment of silence for those veterans who have served, who are serving in peacetime and in wartime, who have gone and are still with us. So let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, so that kind of concludes our assembly, our virtual Veterans Day assembly, and we want to thank everyone, the veterans, Mr. Johannesson, Mr. Sengarani, Mr. Munson, and our students as well. But before we go, on our way out, and Dr. Swimke, and for Hillary Holden for putting all this together, and everyone else who was involved. As we go out, we have a slideshow to present for everybody. And when that goes out, then the assembly will be over. So let me share this with you and prepare ourselves for a little bit of a slideshow. Hold on just a minute. Hold on just a minute. This is live, everybody. Here we go. So thank you so much again for this wonderful virtual Veterans Day assembly that we had here at Manuka Community High School. Thank you for everyone involved. Happy Veterans Day.